Welcome everyone to TWB Talks. I'm your host TWB. This week we're taking a look at the NFL playoffs as wildcard weekend is coming up. The road to Super Bowl 57 in Arizona is officially on. 14 teams have made the playoffs and 12 will play this weekend. Let's get right into it and let's start breaking down all those wildcard matchups. First wildcard matchup of the weekend takes us to San Francisco as the 49ers take on the Seahawks. The 49ers are coming off tremendous momentum from the regular season. They've won 10 in a row with backup quarterback Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, suddenly one of the most relevant players in the league. He's thrown 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. To go along with a dominant defense, the 49ers look almost unstoppable. They added Christian McCaffrey mid-season. They've got George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. They've got weapons. It's almost Super Bowl or bust for the 49ers. But that's a lot of pressure to put on third-string quarterback Brock Purdy in his first playoff game. On the Seattle side of things, there's almost no pressure for Seattle to win this game. They are already picking top 5 in the draft. They traded away their best player Russell Wilson to Denver. Everybody thought this was a rebuilding year. Seattle actually gets a top 5 pick from Denver because they were horrible with Russell Wilson. And the motto this year has been, let Geno cook. The only problem is, Geno in 2 previous games against San Francisco this year did not cook anything good. He only had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Overall, the 49ers don't give up a lot of points. It's impossible to run the ball against them. Seattle's offense, between Geno and rookie Ken Walker, who's coming off of 3 games with 100 yards rushing in a row headed into this one, but in 2 matchups against San Francisco, only had 57 rushing yards combined. The 49ers are favored by 10 points in this game, and I think they are going to pull this one out by 7. I think Geno cooks, but he's going to be cooking at home because Seattle is going to be eliminated. Next wildcard matchup takes us to Jacksonville as the Jaguars play host to the LA Chargers. Jacksonville is coming in hot to the playoffs. They've won 5 in a row, and the Chargers have won 4 out of their last 5. Herbert and Lawrence for the Chargers and Jaguars respectively. Trevor Lawrence, he threw for 25 touchdowns this year. Justin Herbert also threw for 25 touchdowns this year. This is a great matchup between young quarterbacks who are making their first playoff appearances. The Chargers, however, offensively are definitely more one-dimensional than the Jaguars, as the Chargers focus more on throwing the ball as opposed to rushing, and that may be for good reason. They've had a lot of offensive line injuries this season, and quite frankly, sometimes it looks like their offensive line resembles turnstiles more than they do actual NFL players. On the defensive side of things, the Chargers also struggled to defend the run, but Jacksonville struggled to defend the pass, which plays right into the Chargers' strength. However, the big factor coming into this game, star wide receiver for the Chargers, Mike Williams. He's injured. Is he going to be cleared for this game or not? We don't know. He's day to day. Overall, this may be the most even playoff matchup, but if Williams is out, I give the slight edge to the Jaguars by a field goal. If Williams ends up playing in this game, I say it's almost as simple as a 50-50 shot for either team to move on. We stay in the AFC as we go from the most balanced matchup to quite possibly the most lopsided one as the Buffalo Bills play host to the Miami Dolphins. Buffalo's coming into the playoffs on a winning streak as they've won 7 in a row, while Miami has just won 2 out of their last 7. In the previous 2 matchups between these 2 teams, the game was decided by 3 points or less, but Miami is without their starting quarterback and now their backup quarterback. They're down to their 3rd-string quarterback, Skylar Thompson, who let's just say hasn't had the same luck as Brock Purdy in San Francisco. He's thrown 1 touchdown, and along with it, he's thrown 3 interceptions, and Miami is starting to struggle. Buffalo looks like an absolute powerhouse, and they remind me of San Francisco, just with a better quarterback. Josh Allen has already thrown 35 touchdowns this season, and with the shape Miami is in, he might add another 10 more just in this game. Miami offensively has weapons on the outside in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but with no quarterback to throw them the ball, this offense is going to have some major problems. And defensively, they're great against stopping the run, but honestly, in the passing game, they probably couldn't cover 49-year-old Terrell Owens. If you watch the Georgia versus TCU National Championship game, this game could look very similar. I expect Buffalo to roll over Miami by at least 14 points. Had to make a slight wardrobe change as we head up to icy Minnesota as the Vikings play host to the New York Giants. In their last 5 games, the Vikings are 3-2, while the Giants are 2-3. They actually played each other during that 5-game stretch, and the Vikings came out on top by just a field goal. And that summed up the Vikings season as they won an NFL record 11 games that were decided by just one score. The Vikings defense has been bad this season, and their offensive line hasn't been much better. As for the Giants, much like Seattle, no one expected them to be here at this point in the season, but here they are under brand new head coach Brian Daboll. They have overachieved. With an offense now focused around Saquon Barkley and a defense that is now creating pressure on the quarterback, they've given themselves an opportunity to steal a playoff game on the road. The Vikings are more offensively talented, especially with playmaker Justin Jefferson on the outside, but I think their defense cost them this game. The Vikings are much like eating at your favorite Mexican restaurant. It's great when you first get it, it's flavorful, it's tasty, but after 60 minutes there could be some serious consequences. The consequences to me spell a Vikings loss as the Giants get their win back by just a field goal. From Minnesota now to Cincinnati, the Bengals are hosting the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals have won 8 games in a row if you don't count their canceled game against the Buffalo Bills, while the Ravens have only won 4 games in that same stretch. Ironically, the last game of the regular season featured a matchup between these two teams, where the Bengals came out on top, 27-16. As for the Ravens, they will be without star quarterback Lamar Jackson for this game, and have yet to announce whether backup quarterback Tyler Huntley will be ready for Sunday's contest either. As for the Bengals, Joe Burrow has been on an absolute roll and has thrown 35 touchdowns as the Bengals are looking to make it back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. The Ravens were able to acquire star linebacker Roquan Smith midway through the season, but I don't believe the Ravens offense, centered solely around the skills of Lamar Jackson, will be able to keep up with the offensive firepower of Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Mixon. As solid as the Ravens' defense has been this season, I see the Bengals taking down the wounded Ravens by at least 10 points and sending them back home to Baltimore. We now take a look at the final game of Wild Card Weekend as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers host the Dallas Cowboys. The Bucs are 2-3 in their last 5 games, while the Cowboys are 3-2. The Bucs have had major injury issues on the offensive side of the ball, with various offensive linemen and wide receivers getting injured, crippling their offense. The Bucs also were the worst rushing team in the league, with starting running back Leonard Fournette only having 1 game where he had over 100 yards this season. That game was in Week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. Tom Brady was still Tom Brady this year, as the Bucs offense ranked 2nd in pass yards per game. As far as the Bucs defense goes, they have done their part in getting Tampa Bay to this point, as they have kept Tampa Bay's struggling offense afloat in most of their games. For Dallas, their offense showed great power this year, averaging almost 30 points a game. But as we know, with great power comes great responsibility, and since his return, Dak Prescott hasn't been really responsible in taking care of the football. Dak led the league in interceptions this year with 15, but don't panic, Cowboys fans. Matthew Stafford led the league in interceptions last year, and his Rams went on to win the Super Bowl. In the past couple weeks, the Dallas offense and defense have struggled with staying consistent. In fact, Dallas in the last game of the regular season, for a lack of a better term, got absolutely smacked by a Commanders team that didn't even make the playoffs. For the Cowboys, this game has a lot of cobwebs attached to it. For starters, Tom Brady in his career is 7-0 against the Cowboys, and Dallas has not won a playoff game on the road since 1992 when Troy Aikman was their quarterback. If the Cowboys are the team that Jerry Jones claims they are, they have to win this game. This game could sway either way easily, especially with Dallas's playoff history, but I believe the Cowboys will pull this one out by just a touchdown. That concludes our Wild Card Weekend breakdown. If you enjoyed it, Make sure to leave a like on the video, and if you're interested in seeing more content like this in the future, make sure to hit that subscribe button. As always, I'll see you next time, and remember, a wise man once said, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.